All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to another deep dive with me.
Absolutely, and I'm happy to be back with you again.
So, have you ever noticed that, like, when you're watching a movie in English,
Yeah.
like, it kind of sounds like mumbling sometimes?
Mm-hmm.
And then you turn on the subtitles and it's like, oh, wow. Okay, they're actually saying real words.
Yeah.
But, sometimes even in, like, a conversation, you'll feel that way. Or even, like, trying to understand song lyrics can be a challenge.
Yeah, definitely.
So, that's what we're going to dive into today is how to better understand spoken English.
Yes, exactly. And, one of the things that's really interesting about spoken English is that it can vary so much depending on the context and who you're talking to.
Right.
And we're going to look at some tips and tricks for how you can kind of navigate that and understand spoken English better.
Yeah. So we've gone through a bunch of different resources like articles and YouTube videos and other podcasts to kind of gather some of the best tips for improving English listening. And we're basically just going to kind of go through them and talk about which ones we think are the most effective.
Sounds good.
But the main takeaway here is that listening is a skill that you can develop.
Absolutely.
So don't get discouraged if you feel like you're not understanding everything.
Yeah.
Even native English speakers miss things sometimes.
Right.
So it's really just about kind of training your ear and getting used to the sounds of the language.
That's a really good point. Sometimes I'll be talking to somebody and I'll completely space out and I'll have to wait, what did you just say?
Yeah.
And they'll think that like I wasn't listening to them, but it's just that like sometimes, your brain just kind of like
it zones out,
tunes out and you just like miss things sometimes.
Totally.
Yeah.
It happens.
So yeah, let's kind of jump into like why listening can be so tricky sometimes. Yeah. So one of the biggest things I think that makes spoken English tough, especially for English language learners, is that a lot of times words get like blended together.
Right.
So
it's not like when you're reading.
Right.
It's like a completely different thing.
Exactly. Like, if you're reading a sentence, like, what do you want to do?
Right.
It's very clear, like, what each word is.
Yeah.
But if you hear somebody say that, like in a conversation, they might say something like, what do I want to do?
Right.
Like all smushed together.
Yeah. And it makes it so much harder to catch those individual words.
Right. And, and another thing is like different accents.
Oh, yeah.
Like I'm from the U.S., so I have like a pretty standard American accent.
Uh-huh.
But, you go to England and people are speaking with a British accent.
Yeah.
And it can sound like a completely different language sometimes.
Right. And I mean, even within a country like the U.S., there's so much variation.
Oh, yeah.
With regional dialects and accents.
Yeah.
So that definitely adds to the difficulty as well.
Yeah, for sure.
And then also just like the lack of context.
Yeah.
Like if you're listening to a conversation and you don't know anything about like what they're talking about,
right.
It can be really hard to follow along.
Exactly. Like if you're walking into a movie halfway through,
right.
You don't know who the characters are.
Yeah.
You don't know what the plot is, and it's just like
you're totally lost.
It's just really hard to follow.
Yeah. So let's get into some actionable tips here for improving your English listening.
Okay.
The first one that came up a lot is make it enjoyable.
Yeah.
Like start with what you love.
Absolutely.
So,
instead of like,
don't force yourself to listen to something that you find boring.
Yeah. Like if you hate the news.
Right.
Don't listen to the news in English.
Yeah.
Find something that you actually enjoy.
Right. So if you like music,
yeah,
listen to English music.
Yeah. If you like watching YouTube videos, watch English YouTube videos.
If you like video games, like watch game streamers in English.
Exactly.
Just something that you're actually interested in.
Right.
And start small. Don't try to understand everything all at once.
Yeah.
Like just focus on maybe like 3 minutes at a time.
Right.
And try to catch a few words or phrases.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're listening to a song, like maybe just try to catch like the chorus.
Yeah.
Like, just a few words here and there.
Yeah. Or like if there's a phrase that you really like, try to like sing along with it or repeat it.
Right.
So that you can kind of like get those sounds in your head.
Yeah.
And get used to them.
And the more you enjoy it, the more you'll learn.
Yeah.
For sure. Okay. So tip number 2, this is all about using subtitles.
Yeah.
And And I think a lot of people are hesitant to use subtitles
Yeah.
because they feel like they're cheating or something.
Right.
But subtitles can actually be a really useful tool
Absolutely.
if you use them the right way. So the key here is to use subtitles to help you understand what you're hearing, not just to read along with the dialogue.
Right.
So a good way to do this is to start with English subtitles.
Okay.
So that way you can kind of match the sounds that you're hearing
Yeah.
with the words on the screen.
Right.
And you could start to see like how words are spelled and how they're pronounced.
Exactly.
And then once you've watched a little bit with the subtitles on, try turning them off
Okay.
and see how much you can understand without them.
Yeah.
And if you miss something, you can always rewind
Right.
and watch it again with the subtitles off.
Yeah.
And then, if you still can't figure it out,
Right.
then you can do the subtitles back on.
Right.
But the goal is to kind of like wean yourself off of the subtitles.
Yeah, to use them as like training wheels
Right.
to get to the point where you don't need them anymore.
Yeah, like when I was learning Spanish, I used to watch a lot of movies with Spanish subtitles, and it really helped me to like kind of connect those sounds with the written words.
Yeah. Right.
And then eventually I was able to watch movies without subtitles and understand most of it.
That's awesome.
Okay, tip number 3 is to listen actively.
Okay.
So active listening is basically just paying attention to what you're hearing
Yeah.
and trying to process the information.
Right.
As opposed to passive listening, which is just kind of like having something onto the background
Yeah.
and not really paying attention to it.
Right.
So a good way to practice active listening is to choose like a short audio clip,
Okay.
maybe like a minute or two from a podcast or a YouTube video, and listen to it with complete focus.
Yeah.
And then pause it.
Okay.
And try to like remember what you just heard.
Right.
Like what were the main points? What were some of the keywords or phrases that you heard?
Yeah.
And you can even try to like repeat a sentence that you heard or predict what the speaker might say next.
Right.
So it's really just about like engaging your brain
Yeah.
and making sure that you're actually processing the information.
Yeah. It's like a workout for your brain.
Right.
Like if you go to the gym and you just kind of like stand around and don't actually lift any weights,
You're not going to get any stronger.
you're not going to get any stronger. Yeah.
So it's the same thing with listening.
Right.
Like you got to actually put in the effort to get better at it.
Absolutely.
Okay. Tip number 4 is to practice with real people.
Yes.
So this is obviously the best way to improve your listening skills,
Right.
because you're getting real-time feedback and you're having to like adjust to different speaking styles and accents.
Yeah.
So if you have any English-speaking friends or colleagues,
Yeah.
try to chat with them as much as possible. Or you can join like an online language exchange group
Right.
or a forum or something like that.
Yeah.
You can even just like eavesdrop on conversations in public places, like if you're at a coffee shop or something.
Just be careful not to get caught.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like don't be creepy about it.
Yeah.
But like, you can just kind of like listen in and see if you can pick up on any words or phrases.
Yeah. And I think it's helpful to start with like easy interactions.
Yeah.
Like just trying to understand like when somebody's ordering food
Right.
or saying hello, like just like really basic stuff.
Yeah.
And pay attention to their tone and rhythm,
Right.
like how they're saying things.
Yeah.
As much as like what they're saying.
Absolutely.
And there's also a ton of like apps and websites
Yeah.
that can connect you with native English speakers for conversation practice.
Right.
So there's really no excuse not to get out there and practice.
Exactly.
Okay, so tip number 5, this kind of combines two things that we saw a lot,
Okay.
which was start with slower and clearer English.
Yeah.
And then use the shadowing technique. So for slower and clearer English, you can find a lot of materials that are specifically designed for language learners.
Yeah.
So things like podcasts for learners, audiobooks that come with a text transcript,
Right.
or even TED Talks, which often have subtitles available.
Yeah.
And the key here is to just listen for like short periods of time,
Yeah.
maybe like 10 or 15 minutes a day.
Right.
And just focus on really understanding what you're hearing.
Yeah.
And then the shadowing technique is basically just repeating what you hear.
Right.
So you play an audio clip
Exactly.
and you try to repeat it as closely as possible.
Yeah. Like as if you were the speaker.
Yeah, like an echo.
Exactly.
And you want to try to match their speed, their pronunciation, like their tone of voice.
Yeah.
And this can be really helpful for improving your pronunciation.
Absolutely.
And your listening comprehension.
Yeah.
So you can use like news clips or YouTube videos or even songs for this.
Yeah.
Anything that has like clear audio.
Yeah, and a native English speaker.
Yeah.
Okay, so tip number 6 is ditch the scripts.
Yeah.
So this means like watching TV shows and movies without subtitles.
Right.
And listening to real unscripted conversations.
Yeah.
Like vlogs or interviews or things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And this can be really challenging at first.
Yeah.
But it's the best way to train your ear for real world English.
Right.
Because in the real world, people don't always speak slowly and clearly.
Right.
And they don't always enunciate every word.
Yeah.
So you got to get used to hearing like the natural flow of conversation.
Exactly.
And you can also practice this with native speakers.
Yeah.
Or you can even use like AI voice assistants.
Right.
Like Alexa or Google Assistant.
Yeah.
To like have conversations with them.
Yeah.
And get used to hearing different accents and speaking styles.
Right.
And the more you do this, the more your brain will just naturally start to adapt. And you'll start to pick up on those patterns and the connected speech and all that.
It's like anything else, like the more you practice, the better you get at it.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's okay to like listen without subtitles first.
Yeah.
And then go back and listen with subtitles
Yeah.
if you need to like to catch anything that you missed.
Exactly.
But the goal is to eventually get to the point where you don't need the subtitles at all.
Right.
Okay. So our bonus tip, and this is a really important one,
Okay.
is to be patient and repeat.
Yes.
So learning a language is a process.
Mm-hmm.
It takes time.
Right.
And it takes effort.
Absolutely.
And you're not going to be perfect overnight.
Yeah.
So don't get discouraged if you don't understand everything right away.
Right.
Just keep practicing and keep listening.
Yeah.
And eventually you'll start to see improvement.
Mm-hmm.
And don't be afraid to listen to things multiple times.
Yeah.
Like if you're listening to a podcast or a TED Talk or something,
Right.
and you don't understand everything the first time,
Mm-hmm.
just listen to it again.
Yeah.
And maybe even a third time.
Right.
And each time you listen, you'll pick up on more and more.
Yeah.
And it's also important to celebrate those small victories.
Yeah.
Like if you finally understand a joke,
Right.
or you can follow a fast-paced conversation.
Yeah.
Like those are all signs that you're making progress.
Absolutely.
So don't get too hung up on like understanding every single word.
Right.
Just focus on getting the main idea
Mm.
and enjoying the process.
Yeah.
And think of it like you're training a muscle.
Yeah.
Like the more you use your listening muscles,
Mm-hmm.
the stronger they'll get.
Right.
So just keep practicing and don't give up.
Absolutely.
And that leads us to our final point, which is consistency.
Yeah.
So just like with anything else,
Yeah.
If you want to get better at something, you have to do it regularly.
Right.
So try to set aside like 10 minutes every day
Yeah.
to just focus on listening to English. And it doesn't have to be anything too complicated. Like you can listen to a song or a podcast or a news clip,
Yeah.
or even just like have a conversation with a friend.
Mm-hmm.
But the important thing is to just do it consistently.
Right.
And over time, you'll definitely see improvement.
Absolutely.
That was a lot of information.
Yeah.
But hopefully it was helpful.
Yeah.
So just to recap,
Okay.
we talked about starting with enjoyable content,
Yeah.
using subtitles strategically,
Mm-hmm.
practicing active listening,
Right.
engaging in real conversations,
Yeah.
starting with slower and clearer English, and using the shadowing technique,
Right.
and then tackling faster speech
Yeah.
and being patient and repeating.
Absolutely.
So which one of those tips do you think you're going to try first?
I think for me, I would definitely say like starting with enjoyable content.
Yeah.
Because I think that's something that a lot of people forget about.
Yeah.
They think that like learning English has to be this like really boring chore,
Right.
but it doesn't have to be.
Wow.
Like you can actually have fun while you're learning.
Yeah.
And I think that's the best way to learn.
Absolutely.
So I would say like find something that you're interested in
Yeah.
and just start listening to it.
Yeah.
And don't worry about understanding everything. Just
Right.
try to like enjoy the process.
Yeah. And I think it's also important to remember that like,
Yeah.
progress is more important than perfection.
Absolutely.
Like it's okay if you don't understand everything.
Right.
Just keep practicing and you'll go there eventually.
Yeah.
And don't compare yourself to other people.
Right.
Like everybody learns at their own pace.
Yeah.
So just focus on your own journey
Yeah.
and celebrate your own successes.
Absolutely.
And think about it, like babies learning to talk.
Yeah.
Like they spend months and months
Right.
just listening to people talk
Yeah.
before they even start to say their first words.
Mm-hmm.
So give yourself that same kind of grace and patience.
Right.
And just keep listening.
Yeah.
And eventually you'll be able to understand everything.
Absolutely.
So, as you continue your English learning journey,
Yeah.
think about all the amazing things that you'll be able to do.
Mm-hmm.
Once you can understand spoken English fluently,
Right.
you'll be able to watch movies and TV shows without subtitles.
Yeah.
You'll be able to have conversations with native English speakers.
Mm-hmm.
You'll be able to travel to English-speaking countries.
Right.
And really immerse yourself in the culture.
Yeah.
So it's definitely worth the effort.
Absolutely.
To put in the time and practice your listening skills.
Yeah.
So keep listening, keep practicing, and we'll see you next time for another deep dive.
Sounds good.